Hello, hello. Sorry if you got knocked off a minute ago. I had an incoming call, and I guess that's one problem with the technology is that it didn't give me an option of continuing the Periscope. So I suppose I should turn off alerts or something before I do that. Hello, Rick Ogglesby. First day on Periscope. You miss me? So what I was asking before I got bumped off is if people think there's anything that I influenced in the election. And dozens of you said that you managed to convert 3 to 25 people in your life to Trump supporters based on things you read in my blog, which is mind-boggling. I gave you hope that the polls were bogus. I did do that, didn't I? Gave you hope that polls bogus. Yeah, I did do that. Good morning. You got 11 to convert. I neutered Hillary. I think Mike won it for Trump, but I explained it best. I kept you calm. I don't know if I converted Bill Maher and Joe Rogan, but they certainly listened. And by the way, you can say what you will about, I know a lot of you are critics of Bill Maher, but keep in mind, he invited me on his show. He let me say whatever I wanted to say, and he treated it completely seriously. All right, so he didn't agree with it, but he certainly respected the message. So let's not take that away from him. You bailed during Pussygate. Well, what I did was I got out of the blast zone because I needed to, but I assumed that would be a temporary situation. I may have helped prevent chaos on voting day. I don't know that I had that much influence. I know that I tried to. I certainly attempted to decrease chaos on voting day. Do you think the fact that I showed an unnatural, London did sideline me for a bit, that's true. I'm sorry, I forgot my point. Oh, I was going to say, do you think that my unnatural level of confidence in my prediction influenced you? Yeah, the book sales went way up around October especially. They didn't stay up, but they're better than they were before October. But there was a huge bump in October. Yes, confidence is persuasion. You were fascinated that I could make such a bold prediction. It's funny, in retrospect, if your prediction is right, people call that bold. I call that audacious. But if you get it wrong, you're just a freaking idiot. Thank you for buying my book and giving it out like candy on Halloween. I was wrong about running unopposed. Was I wrong? Because I was certainly wrong on the last day. But wasn't there a point in this campaign where Clinton was literally medically unavailable for an extended period of time toward the end? And have we ever had a situation where one of the two people just wasn't even available at the end? And so for all practical purposes, she was not there for a few weeks during, was it October? Or was it August? I forget when. Yeah, the word persuasion. I think I was behind that. All right, what else do you think that I changed about the election? So not just a prediction. What do you think I actually changed? Testosterone levels increased because of me? Yeah, the funny thing is that that's almost certainly true. But but I know that nobody believes that. But it's almost certainly true that I increased the testosterone level in the United States. I could talk more about that. But the funny thing is, that's probably the most verifiably, clearly true thing out of all of this. Or at least I increased the testosterone on one side of the debate, not the other side, I guess. Roly-poly, you are a good student of persuasion. So a lot of you think that the Bill Maher appearance was some sort of a turning point. I didn't feel it that way at the time, because I feel that people watch those shows and they don't really go away with a different, it's the first time you saw me. Huh? All right, let me ask that question. So how many of you saw the Bill Maher appearance in which I predicted Trump would win in a landslide and think it mattered? How many do you think it mattered, like to the election result in some way? Huh. Really? First time you saw me was on Bill Maher. Found you. You found me by Googling Trump. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the Bill Maher appearance was a big deal. You showed them that Trump supporters can be intellectuals. That's a bigger deal than you think. And by the way, I would say that Newt Gingrich does a better job of that, because brain-wise, you can't get a much bigger brain than Newt Gingrich. And I think every time he appeared talking on Trump's behalf, people watching it said to themselves, "He's really smart, so if he likes Trump, that's got to mean something, right?" Trump intellectuals. I don't know that really changed anything, but I'll write it down. I just spelled intellectuals wrong. That's a bad sign. I normalized them. You were able to calm concerns. It's evolutionary to take heed of a smart-sounding person. Chalkers, huh? Have you considered which specific people I influenced? Good question. What do you think? Is there anything, other than the fact that they were not Trump supporters? I've never really thought in terms of what types of people I had persuaded. That's a really good question. One of the rules of hypnosis, important players. All right, let me ask you this. And thank you for prompting this question. So, do you think I had more influence on the public, meaning the voting public directly, or more influence on the mainstream and social media, which then took up some of my points. Do you think my influence was through the media or direct to the public? Public, one begets the other. Donald Trump Jr. used your arguments. What arguments did Donald Trump Jr. use of mine? I'm not aware of any. Direct to the public. So you're a little split here, because it's hard to get to the public unless you're going through social media or through the media. So it's a tough question, actually. Social media, public media. Interesting. The media coverage of you was influential. Yes, so I guess the media just sending clicks my way made a difference. But did you notice that people in the media were using different language that sounds like it came from me? And by the way, so the tell to find out if you've influenced somebody is that they start using your language. They don't know it; they're just using your wording and stuff. And that means that internally they've accepted your points. So other than the word persuasion, and I guess the whole thing about fact-checking not being important, the 3D chess quote, yes. I have seen that one in the media. Landslide, I think people were going to say landslide anyway. Bigley. Twitter links to you on Donald Trump Jr. Yeah, Donald Trump Jr. follows me on Twitter and vice versa. But I don't know how much influence any of that had. I listen to you because your girlfriend is smoking hot. That is the best reason to listen to me. And by the way, the number of people who take me seriously because Christina, my girlfriend, has 2.4 million Instagram followers and might be the most attractive human being on earth. For some reason, that makes me look like, well, not for some reason, for obvious reasons, that makes me look persuasive, which actually increases my persuasive power. Because if you think I'm persuasive in any realm, you're half persuaded for the next topic, because you just expect to be persuaded if somebody's persuasive. Yeah, I keep hearing gaslighting being used incorrectly as well. Natalie Portman. Natalie Portman is not even close to as attractive as Christina. And Natalie Portman is really attractive. Word thinker. I'm not sure that word thinker ever went anywhere. It didn't become viral outside of the people who talked to me. What's my opinion on the Russia accusation? The Russia accusation? Well, as I've said, I said this on Twitter, I've said this here as well, that if the intelligence agencies are unwilling to brief Congress, then they just all need to be fired. And they should brief Congress as often as Congress asks them to brief them, because they are the oversight, and you can't really have a country that lets the intelligence agencies just run amok and do whatever they want. Perhaps aiding WikiLeaks? So my thing on Russia is, I assume that the U.S. intelligence people, the CIA, probably try to influence other countries' elections all the time. And in the past, we know that the CIA has done, some pretty horrible things to other smaller countries, trying to change their governments. So having Putin try to mess with our election feels like just sort of pushing back. But it doesn't really sound like it made a difference. I made all of those comics, yes. Cognitive dissonance became a popular term. It did, didn't it? Yeah, I don't think I've seen it as much as after I started using it. Have you heard anybody talk about us all having different movies in our head? Yeah, confirmation bias. Just Google the term persuasion reading list and it pops right up. It'll be the top search engine thing. The third act. Yes, that was me. Master Persuader, but other people didn't really pick that up. Yeah. Weaponized is a normal word. But what about Cialdini? I probably did help sell his books. How does your persuasion skill compare to Trump's? Well, I've said Trump is the best persuader, but that doesn't mean he has the most knowledge about that area. It just means he does the best with what he has. And one of his advantages is, and I was saying this the other day in an interview, is that he doesn't have any artificial constraints on what he's willing to do. So if you imagine me running for president, and let's say I'm running against Trump, and even if you imagined I had more persuasion talent, he would still completely annihilate me because I would have trouble saying things that I just knew weren't true, even though I knew it could be very useful and it could be very persuasive to say things that aren't true. I'm just not wired to do that, or at least not in any sustained way. So Trump is bigger, louder, takes bigger risks. He's just willing to do more stuff. So his toolbox is about triple the size of any person who just has a lot of knowledge about persuasion. So that's what makes him so good. It's not just that he knows how to do it. It's that he'll do it to the exclusion of all social norms, and most people can't do that. Trump doesn't think he lies. Well, I think he calls it hyperbole, because it's sort of a strategic non-truth, let's say. Zero fear of embarrassment helps, yeah. So there, Trump and I are reasonably close, but can you imagine putting yourself in his position? Imagine the things that were said about him, and some of them were true, things from his past and whatever. They're just the horrible things that were said about him for so long and will continue to be said about him. He doesn't seem bothered by any of it. Now, I too would have very little shame, but I don't think I could match him in that department. Describe the book more. So the book I'm working on, that'll come out at the end of October, the working title, and it might change, would either be The Master Persuader or My Spooky Year, or one of them is the subtitle. I haven't decided yet. But basically, it would be me telling you everything I know about persuasion, or as much as I can put in the book, in the simplest way I can explain it, so without the academic stuff. But wrapped with a background of the Trump experience, the election, and mostly so that I can use them as visual reminders of the techniques. So the beauty of the Trump election is that he did so many persuasive things that whenever I talk about anything persuasive, I can say, hey, do you remember the time he was describing Ben Carson's stabbing of a belt buckle, and he acted it out? Most people who read my book will have some memory of that happening and seeing that in the news. So there's an actual picture in their mind that will be associated with all the lessons because we have such a visual memory of Trump and all the things he did. It's hard to forget anything he did, right? So if you can tie a lesson to something that somebody already has in their mind, there's a hook already there. It's the difference between, hanging your coat on a hook that's already there, hey, easy, versus, you have to find a wall and find a hook and nail it into the wall and then put your jacket on it. So most of the work is done for me because there's a almost universal common experience with the Trump history here. The Mormon missionary used those techniques. That's interesting. Yeah, temperament was a big thing. Temperament, by the way, was an excellent persuasion method on the other side. Liberal or leftist master persuaders? Yes. Obama. Moore. I think Bill Maher, in his own way, in a different way. I would say he doesn't have the persuasion skills of a skilled persuader, but he's persuasive. Do you feel Obama did a good or bad job? Michael Moore, yeah. I think Obama did do a good job, yes. I know that will surprise you. It's amazing how many porn-related spam people there are on here. Could a dumb guy do what Trump achieved? Not a chance. Is the Democratic Party done now that they're doubling down on identity politics? Well, anything can happen. So they may find their way, but they do seem done. But they're not done. I'm sure that they will emerge from the ashes. Now, the best thing that the Democrats have going for them is that they have an unpopular president who's a Republican. So that gives them something to rally around as, something to hate. So I think when Trump's in office, give him a little time. He'll do something that's very unpopular on the left, and then they will coalesce around criticizing him. So they'll come back. Planned diversion from escape of U.S. and Israeli fighters from Aleppo. Was it? Bernie is saying good things about Trump? Really? Is Charlie Rose overrated? What kind of weird question is that? Charlie Rose interviewed me once, years ago. Am I on the left or the right? I am neither of those things by label. I'm ultra liberal when it comes to social stuff. I'm so liberal that liberals don't know that I'm a liberal. I would say most liberals who read my stuff believe that I'm a hardcore conservative, but socially I'm super liberal. I'm more liberal than the liberals. But on the international stuff, it's whatever works. I'm more of a utilitarian when it comes to dealing with the rest of the world. Do you think the current Aleppo narrative is to start World War III? Probably not. I saw a little video clip of looked like a Russian-born man in, I don't know where he was, England or United States somewhere. And there was a protest going on, and what he was yelling was, I think it was a protest against Putin or something, and he was yelling that the war in Syria was started by Obama and it's being ended by Putin. And think about that. That's not so wrong, all right? So, in here, I'm not saying, Putin's better than Obama or anything like that. What I'm saying is that if you think about it, if you get out of the mindset of, the Westerners who are fed a nonstop diet of Putin is horrible. And by the way, I'm not saying he's not horrible. I'm just describing the situation. It's sort of a shocking reframing to realize that people who start wars are bad. People who end wars tend to be the good ones. And objectively speaking, Obama did more to start the problems, the war in Syria, and Putin is doing a lot more to end it. Now, it's true that the ending it is a brutal business, but in the long run, you got to end a war, all right? And usually the way you end them is somebody gets brutalized until they don't want to fight anymore. And in that region, I don't think there was another way to do it, right? They weren't going to talk it out. So you only had one option, which is some way to brutally reduce the conflict by either killing everybody or scaring them or whatever. And Putin was willing to do it, apparently. So Putin is actually ending the war that, in some ways, you could argue that Obama started. Not intentionally, obviously. A common sense liberal. Do you have the sense that Melania wants no part of being a first lady? I just love the fact that she treats it as optional, don't you? I mean, how do you like the fact that Melania has been essentially appointed by the country as their first lady, just sort of an automatic thing? But here's what I hear. Just tell me if you don't hear this without actually hearing it. So I'm not talking about literally hearing it. I'm telling you how I read this situation. How I read this situation is, this is sort of my imaginary thought balloon for Melania, is fuck you, it's 2016. I didn't run for office. I don't have to be your first lady the way you want me to be a first lady or any other way, because I didn't run for office. And just being the wife doesn't make me, have a job that I didn't sign up for. And by the way, she probably wasn't crazy about Trump running for office in the first place. So there's no part of this that she volunteered for. And I don't think I've ever liked Melania more than when I heard she wasn't going to move to the White House, at least until Barron is out of school for the school year. And in fact, I think I'd be even happier if she just said, "Nah, I think I just want to, be a good mom. Barron needs a lot of attention or whatever she wants to say, and just blow the whole thing off." Because again, it's 2016, and she didn't get a job just because she's married. What kind of sexist bullshit is that? All right, we expected it to happen, but our expectations don't have to guide her actions. So the fact that she's basically treating this whole first lady thing as entirely optional on her part, and by the way, not that into it apparently, totally makes me like her more. I found it awkward to watch, and see if you agree with me on this. All right, there are things that were fair and made sense in the '60s that don't make sense now. I was always I felt maybe awkward watching Michelle Obama play a traditional first lady role, because again, it's 2016, 2008 through 2016, and what makes her just like the secondary first lady? Let's get the China working. That just all feels right. It just feels sexist as hell, doesn't it? Like, why is it her job just because her husband got elected? You know. So I feel like the days of a traditional first lady, sort of like the king and the queen, the king's the king, but the queen still has to act like a queen because you expect her to. I just think that's over. I think Michelle Obama made the rest of the country feel awkward on her behalf, because I appreciate that I think she was a really good first lady. And we appreciate that she did a great job, and I think she represented the country well, and all that. So the country, I think we appreciate her volunteering to take on that role. But I was awkward with it the whole time. I was uncomfortable, not awkward. I was uncomfortable with her acting like a traditional, "Hey, I'm your wife. I'll do some wifey things and be the first lady," when she has so much more capacity than that. And that she didn't run for that office, right? So if Melania just blows it off and just says, "Hey, this first lady thing, that's great if you want to do it. But remember, people, it's optional. And I'm going to do what makes sense for me and my family and stuff," I'll be fine with that. In fact, I would respect that more than if she just said, "Hey, I think I'll just be your little lady in the White House and have some state dinners and stuff." If she doesn't want to do any of that stuff, she should not do that stuff. I'm all for that. Well, the Trumps continue to rewrite the rules, almost certainly. Will Trump do more for African Americans than Obama did? Well, probably yes, but that's also because it's this year and not last year, right? So probably every year things are going to get a little bit better for the African American community, because there's such a big gap, to close, that you expect that each year is going to be a little better than the year before. So yes, if nothing else was much different, Trump would look like he had a good record in that regard. Kanye at the inaugural, I doubt it. The person in charge of that says no. I did give a different way of looking at him. I didn't see the Ray Rice interview. Cialdini's seminar, any good? I don't know anything about Cialdini's seminar, but I've read the books, and he's a longtime Princeton professor. So if he's actually teaching it, and I don't know if that's the case, but if he's there in person, yeah, it'd be worth a lot. How can you persuade your dream job? I would say try affirmations, try focusing on it. Not to create anything magical, but to make sure your head and heart are heading in the right direction, and also it helps you notice things. By the way, this is one of the benefits of doing affirmations, the thing where you write down what you want 15 times a day, or say it 15 times a day. You don't have to write it down. What it does is it sets the filters in your brain so that you'll notice things you wouldn't have noticed that are useful to your objectives. What? Self-persuasion? Yeah, in a way you could call it that. Michael Moore fell out of the wheelchair? I can't tell if that's real or not. By the way, I would nominate Michael Moore as the most likely person to die young. Thank you for reading my book. All right. How exactly do you do affirmations? What do you say? The typical form for affirmations is this sentence form. You mention yourself and then what it is you want. So I might say, I, Scott Adams, will be President of the United States. Now, it's better not to have a specific goal like that. I talk about this in my book, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. It's better to have more of a directional goal, like I'll be famous, or I'll be rich, or I'll make millions, or it could be specific, like I'll learn to be a good public speaker. It could be specific, like I worked on the quality of my voice, which of course makes me clear my throat when I say it. And so you would write a sentence like this: I, your name, I, Scott Adams, will be President of the United States. How do you know what's true about Putin? I don't think there is any way to know. I think it's fair to say that since he has complete control over the country, that there's stuff he's done that you wouldn't like. That's fair to say. You want to use affirmations to get a girl? Well, you could try. Michael Moore is 62. Oh, well, I take it back. He's actually in pretty good shape for 62. I had him at about 50. How many of these are porn? I'm just checking some of the profiles going by. They look like porn spam. I never got my Ford truck. No, my priorities changed. Please read the audiobook version of the next book. I might. That decision would come later. Yeah, you wonder how you could eat that much. Would recognition of Palestine help? I don't think so. I will stop ignoring you now. What did I get my neighbor for Christmas? Can't tell you in public. How to persuade someone to do what you want if there's no reason to do so. That's what the fake, well, you're going to have to provide some reason, even if the reason is a ridiculous reason, because people need to think there was a reason. So you should provide any reason, but then use emotion to actually influence them. So they need some intellectual reason, but it's not the real reason. They just need to have one. It's sort of cover for changing your mind. And then you work on the emotional part, because that's the reason they change their mind. The fake logical reason is just their excuse that they get to say in public. I talked about the drone earlier on a podcast, on a Periscope. How to get a girlfriend that's that much younger? Helped you improve your memory. I haven't really worked on memory improvement. I've read books on it about how to have, mnemonics and memory tricks. So I sometimes use those tricks, but I can't say I have a good memory. Turkey. Are you really from Turkey? We are all just aghast at that video of the assassin who killed the Russian diplomat on film, which was, let me ask you if you guys had the same experience. I think you all saw the video by now of the Turkish assassin killing the Russian diplomat. You all saw that, right? Did you do what I did, which was replay that video like time after time? Because it was so interesting. And I hate to say that because somebody got killed, but the whole time I kept thinking to myself, am I a bad person for the entertainment value? And that's what it was. You know, I can't say there was any intellectual, moral, ethical reason to look at it more than once. You know, just knowing it exists is all you needed. You know, you didn't, you know, because that was the story. It exists. This guy got killed. But then I felt I had to watch it, that, you know, and I could rationalize that and say, well, I'm watching it even though I know it happened because maybe there's more information, right? But that would just be a rationalization. This was pure murder porn because if you played that clip more than once, and I did, if you were finding entertainment in it, and I have to admit I did, right? Like I'm not bragging about that. I don't think there's anything good about it. But no, I didn't masturbate to it, but thanks for asking. Are you glad these periscopes go away? Yes, I am, although I know people save them. Yeah, and I think people all over the world were doing the same thing. They were playing that thing time after time for entertainment, but trying to convince themselves probably that's not what they were doing, because you'd be a horrible person if that's what you were doing. But there we were, millions of us all over the world, looking at that video more than once, and yeah, it was weird. One of the things it had going for it is that the gunman was weirdly charismatic. Like, didn't he have? And again, it's too soon, and I shouldn't be talking about this at all. But that never stopped me. The gunman, he looked just right out of Central Casting. I mean, his suit was perfect, and that was part of his disguise. But he didn't look crazy. That was the other thing that was weird. He looked like he was politically motivated, and that you know, he was doing something he thought would make a difference. And how cool he was after having just gunned somebody down and knowing that he would probably be dead within minutes was surreal, like you said. He seemed pretty crazy when he was yelling. You know, I didn't hear the audio of that, but I saw it on video. In the video, he didn't have crazy eyes, and he was well dressed. His hair was in good shape. He looked like a. It was weird because of the lack of blood. Yeah, it looks like he shot him in the back, and the bullet didn't go all the way through. I don't know if those of you who know guns better than I do, if you could see what gun he was holding. Is that the sort of gun that from that distance wouldn't go through a body that thick? It was a Glock. Blood would flow out unless he fell on the wound and was just sort of, you know, suppressing the blood on the floor there. Depends on the ammo. Yeah, so you wouldn't expect the bullet to go through him, would you? Oh, if it was a hollow point, yeah, then it would just do damage and not go through you, right? It probably was a hollow point, right? Because the guy knew guns, he was a cop, and he wanted to make sure that the job got done. So if he had access to hollow points, that's all he would have used, right? Do you think he blocked all 8 wounds? Were there 8 wounds? He shot him 8 times. Wow. I think some of the shots were after he was dead, wasn't it? Whose wife was there? The dead guys or the assassins? Yeah, that's ugly. Yeah, the cameraman stuck around. That was gutsy. But I think the cameraman was smart because the gunman was acting as though he was trying to make a political statement. He wasn't just trying to kill as many people as he could kill. So it wasn't that kind of act. So I think once the photographer recognized that what the gunman wanted was exactly the kind of attention that a photographer can give you, that the photographer was probably the safest person in the room at that point. Oh, the camera was on auto? IBM 5100, what's that? What did Putin say? I did not hear that. Yeah, what did Putin say? Putin thinks it's CIA? Did he really say that? I'd need to see confirmation of that. Putin said he's coming after ISIS hard. NATO agents. Huh. All right, I'm gonna run. I've said enough today. Thanks for all the help, because it did help a lot. I took a lot of notes. Thank you.